Going it alone. Frustrated by the federal government's vaccine supply plan, Manitoba has now decided to buy its own made-in-Canada potential vaccine. The province announced it will purchase 2 million vaccines from the Alberta-based Providence Therapeutics. Now, that company's vaccine is currently in clinical trials. It's a long way away from Health Canada approval. But the company's CEO told me on CTV's Power Play last month that they struggled to get real serious federal government support, and they could have been much further along in their vaccine if they had got more buy-in from Ottawa. So why is Manitoba doing this? And if these made-in-Canada vaccines aren't ready until, I don't know, sometime next year or next fall, is it too little too late? And the other question is, why are so many provinces like Manitoba not using the rapid test kits that the federal government provided them? Let's find out. Joining me now is the Manitoba Premier Brian Pallister from cold Manitoba. So we're with you there on the cold, and I hope you're doing well there. Why did you decide to go with Providence and try to suddenly get your own vaccines for your province?
First of all, maybe cold, but we have the friendliest people in the country here, Evan. We decided that a made-in-Canada solution was clearly going to be something that we needed going forward, not just in Manitoba, but as a country. And we feel that this is insurance in case the delays that we're all experiencing with some frustration continue much longer.
Justin Trudeau and Anita Nan, they both said, look, there's going to be 6 million doses by the end of March. Every Canadian who wants a vaccine will have it by September. That's long before Providence Therapeutics would ever get any kind of approval. You know that. Do you not believe that the government will come through? That's just with the Pfizer and Moderna, let alone if AstraZeneca or Johnson & Johnson come in. Do you doubt this plan, these targets?
Well, I use the analogy of insurance for a reason. I mean, you don't buy it because you want to have things fall apart, but you buy it in case they do. If the federal government, which now ranks, I think, 37th on getting vaccines out to people, continues to have problems with its supply chain, we need to establish a new supply chain. And so having a backup plan is a smart idea anytime. And I think also, remember, this isn't a short-term thing. We're going to have a marathon fight here with COVID and potentially with variants. We're going to have boosters needed next year, very likely, and why not have them made in Canada as opposed to being at the whims of a foreign provider?
I'm just intrigued by this. It's certainly an interesting possibility. It's not probably going to help for this first dose of the vaccine until September. You know that. They're months or years away from approval. The clinical trial they're doing is like, I think it's 60 people, so it's pretty tiny. Some of your opponents are saying, you know what you're doing? You're playing politics. You're giving people false hope. It's an insurance plan for way in the future. It doesn't really help for the now. What do you say?
Well, I'd say that my opponents are demonstrating the stupidity and frustration of short-term thinking. They are not thinking about the future. I am. Our province is. We were blocked in our ability to pursue additional vaccines from any of the companies the federal government had dealt with, which was virtually all of them. We found a company that is Canadian-based with a good reputation that we think is a good partner. We've established an agreement with them to get production here. If we need it this year, it's there. If we don't, we'll use it for next year, and we'll use it for future years.
Let me pick up on something you've said to me a number of times. You said the federal government has blocked the province from trying to procure vaccines. You know the federal government, and Anita Nan, the procurement minister, has denied that. They say that's not true. How exactly are you suggesting they blocked your province from trying to acquire vaccines?
Every premier knows the subnational government agreements were abolished essentially when the federal government signed deals with the major providers. We've knocked on these doors. We've been doing this for months now. Look, when the federal government promised that we would get PPE and then didn't deliver, we actually took action here to solve our problem in Manitoba with small businesses partnering to provide the PPE we needed, 95% of it. And we knew right away that we couldn't always count on the federal government to deliver on things they hadn't done in the past. Remember that health care is delivered by the provinces, not by federal governments. So this is a new thing for the feds. And I am not trying to bash the feds here, but I don't like getting bashed with false information and false assertions.
Well, what's the information? But how did they block? This is important. You're saying they blocked provincial governments from trying to get some vaccines?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The major vaccine producers will not sign contracts with the provincial governments. They're precluded from doing so by their agreements with the feds.
So and you're saying that the federal government actively blocked it, or they were just trying to use the power of the federal government because they said they're in charge of procurement? Because they're saying they never blocked provinces from trying to find their own vaccine supply.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, I'll let the facts stand as they are. All I can tell you, I have no trouble with the federal government going out and communicating their rationale for being the sole purchaser and distributor of vaccines if they want. But when they go out and they say that they didn't stop the provinces from buying from AstraZeneca or Moderna or anybody else, they're actually not telling the truth, Evan.
I want to talk to you about rapid testing. CBC News had reported they did a breakdown of something that the federal government has said, that the provinces are not using the rapid tests that they gave. Manitoba, your province, has barely used 1.5% of the 600,000 rapid test kits. They've been sitting there. Epidemiologists I've spoken to, chief medical health officers saying, why aren't they using this? They are effective as surveillance and data. They may not be perfect diagnostically, but they still have huge benefits for the economy and for health, and they're gathering dust. Why?
Well, we've bought other equipment that works better. $50 million invested in other devices that we find are more appropriate for our needs at this point in time. For example, we have dispatched rapid testing equipment to our communities in the city of Winnipeg and around the province to assist teachers in being able to get tested so that they can determine if they can go back to work safely and get back with their kids and help them. We're rolling out even more of those machines because they are more reliable and they suit our purposes. This is not a knock on Abbott as a company or its product, but it has a lower reliability and it's not designed for the purposes that we are using our rapid testing for.
All right, Premier Pallister, thanks so much. Got to leave it there.
Yeah, my pleasure, Evan. Thank you.